rise. We have predominantly, since our inception, been a male-dominated company. Very few women, and what we would see is that even the environment, as the ladies here have attested, it was not accommodative to the women. So that was part of the stressors. And so the Pink Energy Initiative has 3 pillars to try and address the problems that were discovered. And one of them is the first pillar is to promote the women, personal development and empowering them. The second one is creating a conducive work environment so that when a woman comes to work in KenGen, they are not necessarily stressed because of the environment. They can actually bring their best their best foot forward. And number 3 is to bring this gender awareness in the company so that both genders can try and understand where each gender is coming from. And so the Pink Energy Initiative has been rolled out in all our business areas, and we have seen major gains. Like one, you'd find women are now putting forward innovative ideas into, for example, our G2G seminars, winning ideas. You're seeing that they're leading teams. We are seeing promotions that are merit-based, and that was not happening before, possibly because they didn't even know how to package themselves. They do all this work, but you don't know how to package it and showcase yourself. So it has been a great initiative, and also we realize that as women join the company, and I'll give an example with myself. KenGen is my first employer working in KenGen. I joined in and had a family, and I know possibly I'm going to retire here. So my life is changing. I'm going to have children. So when I'm coming to work, at the back of my mind, there's a baby at home. So we didn't have places whereby women could possibly use centers to breastfeed or to express breast milk so that they can save it for the baby in the evening. And so now we have that. We have Mother's Dens and across our business areas, and we want to ensure each and every business area has these facilities. And you would see now women, when they come to work, they're proud. They're even able to talk about their children because they feel that they're in a place whereby they are accommodated. So we have seen a major shift in perception, and also our male colleagues, they now are more empathetic to our needs. So they would say, oh, by the way, like for example, a PPE. If a woman is expectant, you expect the PPE that she got when she was not expectant, it do not fit her. But now you can access the PPEs. You're provided the PPEs that will take you through your maternal journey. So these are little things that go a long way in showing that you value the women, you value their contribution, and also they bring forth the best. And they don't even have to hide their ideas because they may not have the confidence to air them out, but there are platforms like that, and they know they're encouraged to speak out their ideas or even share or even lead teams with no apologies,
Right. Well, as Nora has said, KenGen and bigger organizations and corporations are at the forefront of this and have an advantage. But there are organizations in this sector that still lag behind. Michelle, I'll bring you into this, and I just want to refer back to that National Energy Policy of 2018. I believe it's 2018 to 2022. So soon we're expecting a new one. And just back to one of the imbalances in gender, youth, and persons with special needs in various positions in energy institutions. What do you want to see going forward?
The one thing that I would like to see is youth being included. Kenya is a very young country, and also East Africa. 70% are the youth. So as you can see in the room, I know we talked about gender balance, women versus men, but what about the youth? For me, I'm concerned about the youth because they are holding my retirement. So if we don't train them, if we don't include them, if we don't give them jobs, everything that we are working for right now might go to a waste. Where is my retirement? I want to enjoy, all this hard work that I've put into the industry. I want to, relax at the beach. But if I don't train the youth, if we don't include them, if we don't bridge that gap, we're definitely going to fall down as a country. So youth definitely need to be included, and they're very technical savvy. Even though the industry might be young, we have the technology. They're very savvy in the technology, and they're very curious, but very impatient. But they definitely can take the industry to the next level because the natural resources are there, the technology is there. So if we just train them, include them, put the right measures in place, they will definitely take us to the next generation, and everything that we work for right now will definitely not go in vain. So I would like to see a big shift in definitely youth. I would say in women, as you can see right now, we are all paneled, it's women. I think we have done a lot on that one, but I'd like to see a shift in youth and also disability.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, one of you brought up the points about there not being enough information about this sector and the benefits and everything that comes with it. Zilpa, in your view, what does need to change when it comes to educating the population about the energy industry and giving people opportunities? You know, you might have a young schoolgirl whose dream it is to be an engineer, and she may have the knowledge, but she's a bit stuck and trapped because her parents are thinking, you, a girl, going into engineering? No. So what needs to happen at all levels of generations to bring out that understanding about the importance of this sector?
Picking up the baton from what Michelle, who's also my namesake, was saying, training really is the key to any kind of sustainable continuum within the sector. So the most important thing for the energy sector, considering how technical it is to have competency-based training. So you could go to all the universities in the world, but until you interact with the systems, with the equipment, with the knowledge, with the lingo and the jargon, you will never really fit in. So even when I was coming into the segment, into the sector, you know, you struggle to figure out how to first get in because who is there mentoring you when you're off of school? So, for instance, like with Kenya Pipeline Company, and I'm sure with many other energy-related state parastatals and sagas, as the CS called them, we have a competency-based training institute that was actually mandated by heads of state in 2014 of the East Africa community that is specialized in oil and gas training for particularly oil and gas pipeline operations. So we do need to set up more such institutes because that's really where our value is going to come off of as opposed to theoretical learning. And as well as that, then we talked about interconnectivity, then link these institutions to each other such that if someone is not interested purely in petroleum, then they can find their segue into, for instance, Kenya Power, or you could go and do generation, you know. So we as a sector really do need to think about the synergies that would draw between each other and then the segues that would create for this group of new entrants into the game. More than that, we do need to take ourselves out there. So even in our company, we do have a mentorship program and instituted under the leadership of our current MD, where we would go out and then reach out to these girls in high school and bring them to the office, you know, for Get to Learn, your mom and dad's workspace, which will then open up their minds towards these possibilities, because really the mainstream careers people think of are the medicine, you know, when they think engineering, they don't even know where that's going to end them up. But essentially when they get to see people practicing it as specialists, then it does sink in that there are opportunities and then we can lead them.
All right, thank you. There is so much more to talk about, but I have to come now, unfortunately, to our closing remarks. But if there is anything that perhaps we've missed, now's the chance to bring it up. And Nora, I'll begin with you. What essentially is your message to that young girl out there whose dream it is to become an engineer?
Oh, Lord.
or plus whatever other closing remarks you may have.
For the fear of saying cliches or work hard and all that. I think really young women need to be brave. Seriously, that's what I've seen. Like, I've built my company literally on brevity. Like, we're going to manufacture this and it's going to work. Well, it's working. It worked.
Great.
But more people need to be brave. I was brave because I used to look at Rebecca and say, there's a woman in a leadership position, so I have to be brave enough because she made it there. So we need more representation of Rebecca, the ambassador, so that more young people can actually be brave enough to look up to them. That representation also will ensure that even as we create our policies and our structures, they're molded around the woman persona. So we need to be brave, not just them alone, but it takes a village, yes, to carry that up. Yeah.
Right. Rebecca, you've inspired a lot of women. You should really be proud of yourself. All right. Michelle.
For me, I just want to challenge everyone in the room. Whenever you're having discussions, whenever you're having a meeting, I just want you to look around and ask yourself, is this a diverse team? For me, I would say my career, I have thrived because of who has been in the industry for 20 years. I've been able to talk to somebody who has worked in the UK, in the US, in Chad, and I've been able to learn a lot because of diversity. So I will challenge, whenever you're having a meeting, just ask yourself in the room, do you have a diverse group? Do you have a diverse team? Because with a diverse team, they will challenge and get greater ideas. They'll come up with unique ideas. They will come up with the best solutions. And that will also translate to money, because best solutions are simple, are easy, they are scalable, they are affordable, they are sustainable, and the company will win and everyone will win, and everyone will also feel that this is an environment that I want to work in. You're going to attract top talents. You're going to retain even employees or attract the businesses that are reliable, and we're going to win. So for me, it's just a challenge. Whenever you're having a meeting, whenever you're having a team, a group, in this room, in this team, are we diverse enough? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mwangi, the importance of women in a team in ensuring that we as a country achieve our end goal, and that is renewable energy, sustainable energy.
Yes, it's imperative to have diverse teams, because even if you look at our country, it is diverse. So when we grow, we cannot grow only in one direction. Women think in a certain way. They are great problem solvers, and we can see that in our households. And so
I don't know if the men would agree all the time.
No, they know. They know they have to do consultations at home before they make a major decision. And so we have the ability to see things in 3D and 4D. And having women in the team, like I work mainly with the men, you can see it's always a refreshing situation in a room, the engagement, the respect. So we draw a lot of gains when our teams are diverse, and we get to learn about both genders and the way we think, because there's no one particular solution. And the problems facing our country requires the input of both men and women, the youth, everyone. And many of the solutions that problems we are discussing today, the solutions are in this room, and we need to create more sitting space for women so that they can come in and also learn. As Michelle pointed it out, it is frustrating to imagine you can hold a particular job for a number of years and retire and have no replacement person of your gender. So we have to break the first woman this, the first youth person to do this. We need to be a country of first, seconds, and thirds, right? So when we are working, I always think that even in projects, let's see how we can incorporate more people so that they can bring in their ideas. I know, for example, when I came to KenGen 14 years ago, it's because of the energy projects that we're doing. There were bold ideas and decisions, the one that have brought the 280 megawatts and more here in geothermal. So you see, it requires a lot of technical expertise. It also requires the human resource that is diverse, that can be responsible to our dreams into fruition. So let's not think that it's women. No, we are talented. We are ready to bring all our best forward. So let us support in our teams the young students. Like KenGen has a very good platform where we have interns and attaches, so they come and work and closely work with us in projects. So by the time even KenGen will be hiring the same experts, they don't have to start from zero on in-house training or on-job training. So all these things come in as gains. We have a very nice youth program, the YGen, the young people working in our company. So we have seen their different strengths in every level, from the youth working in the company.
I strongly and still very much insist that the energy sector is very experience-based. And, you know, for instance, do some level of petroleum engineering while having studied within the Kenyan university space. And then they get into the ministry and they do not have any hands-on skills. And then the ministry also doesn't know what to do with them because, you know, it's kind of late in the game. So if at the tertiary level, we are really thinking as institutions where we have the finances, we have the capital, aside from, you know, greening, we really need to put in money, whether it's with these universities or setting up our own institutes to train these individuals, to train this talent, instead of them having to go abroad. In any case, most of them cannot afford it, so that then they are a ready pipeline into our institutions. So as the doctor, geophysicist has said, Ms. Mwangi, you really do need to have a strong pipeline of internships and mentorships. I remember when I came into the industry, you know, just beyond looking at Rebecca and thinking, wow, I admire her, you then need to then look to figuring out how to get to her, to tap into her knowledge. So out of a conference like this, I would imagine that everybody watching at home is looking for the contacts for how to get to KenGen or Kenya Pipeline, or reach out to the panelists so that you can actually start to engage, because you can't make decisions without knowing how and where your next steps will be made. So training, tapping into knowledge, and really
members, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good afternoon. Power to the women. That was a great session, wasn't it? Yeah, let me start by requesting the DJ, please play that clip. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the impact of climate change. There was a heat wave in Kansas in the last few days, and hundreds of cattle died. The cattle belong to the community. And that's exactly what we'll be discussing this afternoon. Earlier on, when the CS made her keynote address, she talked about the future. She talked about water tower restoration and talked about the hydro systems. She also talked about tree cover and forest restoration, sustainable blue economy, and green manufacturing and green industry. She also talked about scaling up clean cooking and various ways of us ensuring that we're doing the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, in order for us to actualize this, it can only happen at the community level. We had a panel here that talked about financing bankable projects. The impact of this can only be seen at the community level. So the impact of sustainable energy, or where really the rubber meets the road, as you have seen, is at the community level, at the individual Kenyan level, at the individual African level. Now, the 2010 Constitution ushered in devolution, and the national policy on sustainable energy would say these are better implemented at the county level, because that is where our communities live. Our chairman did share his experience at a consumer level, and indeed that is where all of us are as consumers. I'm glad to introduce somebody who's at the county level for him to tell us about what it is that they are doing at the county. Alexander Obocha, if you can come forward. Alexander Obocha is the Director, Energy, Environment, and Climate Change, Kisii County. Let us put our hands together for our CEC.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to say that my name is Alexander Obocha, as I have been introduced. And first of all, I want to ask, instead of asking, I want to say what is obvious. Many of us have been talking about sustainable goal number 7. But I don't know how many of us have been able to read it. What does it say? And that goal is related with the energy, and I want to say it here. The purpose of the sustainable goal number 7 is to ensure access to affordable and reliable energy, especially at the grassroots level. Maybe when we talk about this, we are talking about it in the perspective of the towns and urban areas that exist in the world. But when you go down to the society, the community, the village, the household level, you find that sustainable goal number 7 has to be interpreted by counties and how it has to take place. So in realizing this goal, counties have identified gaps in the access to affordable and sustainable energy. Let me give you a very small example here. There is a place in the rural areas, we talk of deforestation. Some people may think that deforestation is a deliberate attempt by people to remove forests. But in the rural areas, you find that mama and baba, who do not have any cent, when evening sets in, maybe they want to prepare a meal. Sometimes, I want to give this realistic example that you find mama finding old mattresses. She wants to burn these old mattresses because there is no firewood, there is no LPG gas. Those are things that are not heard of. So I had one speaker here commenting that in the rural areas, we need to find energy that is more affordable. And the people there do not even afford any kind of energy. I want to draw your attention as members of the panel that how the CAS energy thinks. Mr. Yeko has been working with the communities for a long time, and I realized that he moved from rural electrification, and when he realized that people cannot afford electricity, he came up with the renewable energy project called Power Hive. The Power Hive resource is now assisting people to afford a renewable energy in the rural areas. Solar energy is concentrated into some batteries, massive batteries, and is distributed to communities. And I think he has gone a long way to think like the local and the rural people think. Then when I go out of goal number 7, there is the literature that I want to remind every one of us of Vision 2030. Many of us mention Vision 2030 as literature information. They do not think further on how Vision 2030 can work at the household and community level. I think when you put it here, that in this fireplace discussion, madam, it is true that when we talk about energy at the Vision 2030 interpretation into the rural and community and village setup, we don't need to discuss a lot about how energy is generated, how it is reticulated into the rural areas, but we should also talk about access. If you go through the rural areas, like I can say in Kisii County, you find that there are poles of electricity everywhere and wires passing around, but mwananchi and somebody in the village has not been able to have a drop of the cable to his house. The energy is available, it's placed there, but can I say that Kisii is about 29% access to electricity. And you find that many counties, maybe because of Ayeko, many counties have found themselves having maybe 9% access to electricity. Now, energy is very close to your house, but you have not had enough money to drop it into your house. That is why we request for grants for these communities to have electricity dropped into people's houses. And somebody said here, I don't know whether it was the Minister for Energy or one of the chairmen, I think it was Kibol in the morning, that there must be affordable energy within the communities. And this energy must be given in form of, say, somebody said we come from grants, then we go to loans. You know, mama at home may not afford a loan. In the first place, they do not have collaterals. Yes? Let me get some water. They do not have collaterals for them to have a loan to install electricity, leave alone paying for the electricity bills. So that is why we want to say that interpreting the Vision 2030 and its meaning for economic development for Kenya is a mirage. So let me give. Now we have had impact focus. Sorry. Many partners have now come in, you know, with the advent of counties, county governments, the subnational governments. Wakati hizi serikali zilikuja, when these subnational governments came in the Constitution 2010, you realize that there has been top-down planning. I'm not an advocate of bottom-up planning, but I wanted to say that planning from the bottom has now become a reality in Kenya, that energy services have to be planned from the ground. In the Constitution 2010 and the Energy Act of 2019, it is provided that counties have to do the planning of energy services and infrastructure from the grassroots point. So planning from the grassroots point is important because you may not know where to place the energy infrastructure at the ground. This is for the ears of the planning team at the top. That planning has to be done from the grassroots level, and it is the prerogative of counties to plan for infrastructure of energy at the ground level. You know that communities are the ones who hold land, and we have to plan in such a way that every county plans on its own energy plan, the 47 counties, then the plans are put together to form the national integrated plan. Donors have come a long way to help subnational governments start planning. I'm talking in particular of the Sustainable Energy Technical Assistance Project that covers now 12 counties in Kenya. It's funded by the European Union and other friendly nations to finance energy plans within counties. Previously, the energy plans have not been existing. I now appeal to donors who are existing here, the national government, and all that are interested to assist the counties come up with the following documents. One, the county energy plan, the county energy policies, which are not existing now, the county energy acts, and the county energy regulations. These will provide linkages with all people in Kenya so that energy is planned in a systematic manner from the bottom to the apex of government. I want to end it there because I think my presentation was to take 10 minutes, and the request that all partners here should focus on subnational governments. This is where energy is delivered. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Obocha. If I may kindly request you to take a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said earlier, the 2010 Constitution devolved powers to the counties. And one of the questions I'll be asking is around the reticulation of power. But it's also your chance to ask questions about the community. So, Mr. Obocha, karibu sana. One of the questions I'd like to ask you is, we have seen across counties where the county governments engage in projects and then they're not taken up by the wananchi. What is the county government of Kisii doing to engage the community? Like you said, it happens at the community level. we would expect that once these projects and once the policies and the plans that we just requested for have been done, that you will be doing this for the community. What plans do you have? Or what are you doing currently to engage the community?
Thank you, Madam. I, in my presentation, alluded to the fact that some projects are brought about, but because of financial and other resources, scarcity, you find that people are not able to utilize the energy that is brought very close to them. However, I now advocate that in your second question, we have envisaged a hybrid form of delivery of energy. For instance, the small standalone projects like the solar projects for the micro and the small enterprise industries, where we'll find that there is an example that we like giving out. You find in the rural areas, sometimes there are electricity outages. You find that somebody has, say, a brooder of chicken to produce chicks, and then all of a sudden there is a problem of outages, and the chicks may not, the eggs may not hatch. So from there, you find that people are not now very comfortable with the reliability of one supply of energy. For instance, now we have advocated in the rural areas that we can have the hybrid system where probably we have solar and electricity and other forms of energy. We also think that in heating, we are doing much to see that we have a clean energy like solar and biogas. I have not seen it here as part of the Green Energy Initiative, and it is what is being used now mainly for heating and lighting in the rural areas, where maybe we can not afford electricity. You know, the tariffs are very high for electricity for our local people. Thank you.
Earlier on, when the CS made a presentation, she talked about the reforestation and essentially around turning around the current crisis that we have as far as climate change is concerned. How is the county government reaching Nyaboke, Mogaka, and all those other people at the village level to ensure that they actually are thinking about the environment, and you being in that particular sector, you'd be able to know better. How are you ensuring that your people are involved in environmental conservation as well as water restoration?
Thank you very much. Especially in Kisii, the government has been involved seriously to educate, advocate, wananchi to see to it that we produce sustainably. For instance, the Kisii County government has been planting annually 100,000 trees in institutions, reforestation of the existing forests and the hilltops, and also encouraging wananchi to plant trees in their farms as good lots, and also avoid charcoal burning as was given a moratorium by the government. So I wanted to say in this area that there have also been civil society groups who have been assisting the communities in, say, energy reducing technologies like improved chicos, Kunimbili chicos in the rural areas, and also advocacy on biogas as a way of heating and lighting. You realize that in small-scale farming, we have livestock that produce animal waste, which can be turned into biogas. Biogas can be able to light and heat, and we are appealing to any donors through projects to assist a massive amount of wananchi. I also know what you probably could have asked also was that there are small budgets for especially energy and environmental conservation issues within the counties. You find that probably you may find a department like the Department of Energy being financed to a tune of, say, 10 million. This is not the same case like the Department of Water, Agriculture, Roads, and Health that consume a lot of energy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to open this to the audience for any questions or comments. It's at the community level that sustainable energy will be successful. Questions or comments? The mic will be brought to you. Bankers, Mr. Obuoche is looking for financing. You don't have a question for him? Okay, it looks like we do not have questions. Mine would just be to comment about power reticulation, and perhaps you may not be the right person to answer this question, but what is the county doing to take advantage of this power that was granted to them at the county level, and this is power reticulation?
Yes, there is a matching fund between Kenya Power and Lighting Company and REREC that the counties are now taking advantage of to make sure electricity is electriculated close to people. There is a matching fund where counties give a shilling for a shilling, and I think it has done very well, especially in the last mile connectivity. About 5 counties that I'm aware of, Kisumu, Kakamega, Kisii is now starting, and some other counties, about 5, are gaining proximity to this kind of arrangement with the Kenya Power and Lighting.
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of closing this discussion, I really want to say this. It is at the community level that this particular agenda, that's where we really see the fruit of it. Once we take it down to you and me, and those people in far-flung areas, one of our speakers earlier on talked about that if you look at Africa from up there, we're in total darkness. I want to say this, we will light up Africa only by influencing from the bottom at the level of you and me, at the level of that African lady out there, at that level of that African man, Kenyan woman, Kenyan man, at that level. That is where we will be able to see the impact of sustainable energy. Thank you very much. Let's give a clap again to Mr. Obuoche. Thank you very much. Hand over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. You know, we're talking about energy, and I'm hoping you'd have a bit of that energy yourselves, where we walk the talk, and ours is green energy. It's natural, so we are safe. My name is Dan Mwangi. I am the Digital and Innovation Editor at the Nation Broadcasting Division. I'm also a news anchor, and I shall be taking you through the next session. And I must say it is, as you can see evidently, it is a very bulb, we've got a lot of light bulb moments today. And, safe light bulbs, if I put it that way. And so we are going to get into talking about our environment and the sustainability that, needs to be put in place, what needs to be done to ensure that the energy sector walks the talk of safeguarding our environment. And to just set the scene, I'm going to invite retired Major General Dr. Gordon Kialangwa, who's the Principal Secretary, the Ministry of Energy, to come and address us for a bit. Karibu.
Thank you very much. The Cabinet Secretary, the CAS, the chairs of boards who are here, the CEOs, and all invited guests. Good evening. When you are almost like the last presenter and an hour like this, then brevity becomes the solution. Let me start by saying this. Since morning, we've really been told how we really would want to embrace renewable energy. But then we must be able to appreciate the genesis of this renewable energy. Environment plays a very key role. From a global context, environment is threatened with a number of things. There is pollution, there is destruction of the forest cover, trees, which when we look at in the developing countries, that is actually something that is really a major issue that really needs to be concerned. What is therefore going to happen when the environment is destroyed and not sustained? Then some of the renewable energies that you're talking about here will not exist. And actually the first one to die would be the hydro. This is something that you must note. When therefore we are talking about the environment, what are we therefore referring to? When we look at it from a global context, what I want us to appreciate is the developed world is very good at looking after its environment. If we went to Scandinavian countries, went to countries like Canada, America, the environment is well taken care of, particularly when it comes to the trees or their forest cover, whether it is natural or man-made. But that is actually contrary in the developing world. Today, the Amazon forest is under attack. The Congo forest is under attack. People are cutting down the indigenous trees that have taken years, centuries to grow, and there is no replacement. So for that matter, these rivers we are talking about, the Congo River, Zambezi River, even the Nile, will definitely be affected. And a number of countries are relying on this. Let's come into our country here. How well have we taken care of our environment? I think we are very lucky. The late Professor Maathai started talking about preserving the environment. And quite a number of counties embraced that. If you went to the central part of this country, if you went to part of Kisii, the forest cover, or rather the trees that you can actually be able to see are in plenty. But you can actually go to some places in this country. If you went to Nyanza, hardly would you see trees. You can actually see shrubs. If you went to certain parts of the coast province, you will see the same thing. And that is something that is so wanting. A few questions that we can ask ourselves. Do we really, people who have gone to school, if you went to places like Rift Valley, Trans Nzoia, where I come from, you can actually get someone with 3 acres of land and he has actually got no trees. What happened? Did that person understand really environment sustainability? Now, this is something that is going to affect all of us. But I think it is probably the lack of education. The government, in its own right, has made an effort. I think as Madam CS did tell us this morning, we expected to do, of course, 10%, but we did 12. Yes, planting trees is one, but how do you sustain, how do you maintain them? You have been told this morning by Eric, the amount of firewood that is used to actually, that is being used for cooking in schools, or even at domestic level. So what we are simply saying this morning, to sustain environment, we need to make affirmative, a concerted effort for people to understand what it is. That is one thing. Rivers are going to dry. For example, if you look at our hydros today, I think probably the only hydro that is probably enjoying, because there's some good rain that was around Mount Elgon, is the Turkwell. But the rest of the 5 of our hydros have been affected to a certain degree. And that is something that we are saying, how then are we going to actually then have renewable energy? I think the energy plan, the bioenergy plan that the government has, the ministry has put in place, definitely says that by 2028, I think all the schools will be able, most of the secondary schools will be able to cook using, of course, energy that is actually friendly, or that does not really mean that you have got to destroy the trees. So it is a responsibility of everybody in this room and everybody in this country. I think a few days ago, the Environmental Day, the World Environmental Day was celebrated. And they did mention about only one world. If today we did something negative on the environment here, it will not only affect us, but it will affect the entire world. Just like those countries that are polluting the air, the countries that have got very high emission, those are probably some of the things that are now affecting the climate in our general area. We can actually not be very sure when now to plant, when to expect the heavy rains, or even what you call the short rains. I think what I want to say is that it is very, very important that a bit of education is actually done in schools. Today, if you go to Menengai, where we've got a geothermal, I think most likely a year cannot elapse before that place has been burned down. And when it burns down, for you to recover that forest cover, it will take years. I think, therefore, it's very important that, one, there must be protection. We must actually tell our citizens that it is important, each one of us, to actually plant the trees. And that is the only way we are actually going to ensure that we're going to get some of the rains. And like I said, I will definitely be very short. And I think it's now my pleasure to welcome the moderator for the next session, who is actually Dan Mwangi, to kick on the panel that is supposed to actually carry with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bwana PS, for that. Some very interesting insights there, even as he talks about his home and how people are handling the land. We many a times find some of these conversations being perceived as very far away from the common wananchi, yet it is right in their farms. So we're going to get into a panel discussion now with regards to the environmental sustainability in the energy sector. And I'll now call on stage my panelists. We have Peter Odhengo, who is the Director of Greening Kenya Initiative Trust. Peter, if you could join us on stage. We also have Dr. Macharia Irungu, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Pipeline Company. Karibu sana. And we have Haron Mukiri, who's the Participant Engagement Manager of Global Compact Network Kenya. If you could also join us on stage. We have Moses Nderito, who's the Chief Revenue Officer of Basigo, who's also joining us on stage. And we have Cyprian Nyakundi, who's the Director of Enforcement and Consumer Protection at EPRA. That's the guys who we all know when it comes to the 14th day of the month. They are most popular at that time of the month, on the middle part of the month. So, gentlemen, welcome. I would say, besides the first one, it is free sitting. All right, gentlemen, thank you and welcome. Allow me to begin with the good gentleman to my far left, Dr. Macharia Irungu from Kenya Pipeline. You're the fossil guy on this panel.
The wrong guy here.
you feel like you're in the wrong place.
I am.
You're the one who's carrying all the fossil that we're trying to do away with. And for the sake of understanding and just for context, many people usually hear that a certain project and push is being put in place, and it feels like, oh, so in the next X number of years, we will not be having, the fuel that you transport. For the avoidance of doubt or assumption, what's the place of, Kenya Pipeline in this green future that we are looking at? Or are we here to begin eulogizing you?
I'm Jambo Adhuhuri leo.
At Jambo.
Well, I think in your lifetime and the lifetime of my children, Kenya Pipeline will still be operation. It will be operating in this country. Whatever we are doing, I believe in everything we are doing today, but fossil will remain. Let me give you a good example. You'll be taking your kids to school in US, Australia. I don't think there's any vegetable oil will be put in plane in the next 50 years. It will still be jet. We have to take you around the world. That's a simple thing. I will give you an example. A country like South Korea, they started doing LPG changeover for their trucks since 1998. Today, they've not even done 5%. So you can push the numbers forward. So I'm sorry, I'm seated in the wrong forum, but I assure you, we will do what it takes to get green and protect our environment, as well as provide you the energy you need to propel you.
All right, thank you. And don't worry, you're in the right panel. We want to see how the fossil, ecosystem, I call it that, still plays into this bigger conversation. Like you said, you're here to stay. We are not dumping you anytime soon. I wanted to now bring in someone. You've talked about the flights, and that's, on our transport, and transport is among the greatest consumers of our fuels. And so I want to bring in Moses Nderitu, who's the Chief Revenue Officer of Basigo. And these guys have electric vehicles. That's basically the space they are playing. So they are not really giving Macharia and his guys a lot of business, so to speak. So maybe just for us to get the context of exactly what you do as Basigo, you already have some buses, electric buses, which are already on like a pilot phase. Maybe just tell us.
Lifetime, not our children's lifetime. At Basigo, what we are trying to do is we're trying to electrify the public service market. So what we've done is we have brought in 2 buses, and we have then given them to the pilot phase to existing operators. And if I would name them as City Hopper and East Shuttle. So these buses are actually running and have been running for the last 3 months. They have done over 40,000 kilometers carrying passengers in Nairobi. And what we've done with that pilot is we validated that actually you can run an electric bus profitably in this ecosystem. And there's no country better. There's no country in the world suited more than Kenya for electric mobility. And for one simple fact, we've got a 92% renewable energy. So if you take that renewable energy and put it into transport, which takes around 40% of all our energy, then the gains start multiplying. So the plan is, we start with the 2. We've already got an order of 15 by the end of the year, and we plan to have at least 200 by next year. And those orders are coming already. Yesterday, just by my colleague here, his announcement, we just noticed the public service sector people are now calling us. I can tell you we got orders yesterday by just his announcement. So please keep announcing.
For context, the good gentleman Cyprian works at EPRA, and that is why he's talking about his announcement when we went to our record high fuel prices. So now everybody wants to go to the electric option. And we'll get into that a bit more. Let me bring in Cyprian now that we are here, and in as far as ensuring that we have got this environmental sustainability, especially among the players in this industry. What's maybe your opening comment on this as EPRA?
Thank you, Dan. I think as EPRA, I can say we have really a huge mandate to ensure that we formulate and set and review regulations that guide this industry. And of importance is that there is innovation that is evolving really fast. And I'm actually very proud because of the brilliance we have in this country. We are very young professionals who are really innovating really fast. And we are trying to catch up as a regulator to develop regulations for some of the innovations that they have come up with. So for us, our big task is to ensure that we have regulations that provide a clear rules on how to regulate this market, and a deliberate way of promoting renewable energy, so that we ensure that we get green. And I agree, even on fossil fuels, it may not take long, and with the innovation we are seeing, trust me, in our lifetime, we will be able to see everything going green. So Dr. Macharia should be very worried with the technology that is evolving now.
All right, Dr. Macharia is quite confident, and we'll be getting back to him in a bit. I want to bring in Harun for a bit. And we've heard of a lot of companies, be it the financiers, those who are in the actual groundwork when it comes to this sector, talking about the green agenda. Is this being, the thing that we're hearing being announced, is it translating to actual action on the ground, or is it a lot more for the, the cameras and just for the optics? But are we actually seeing implementation of policies that are being announced?
Okay, thank you, Dan, for that question. We always insist and say that whenever you join the initiative for corporate sustainability, it should not be driven by really public relations value that can come out of it. It will come, yes, but it should not be the ultimate drive. And the reason as to why the United Nations Global Compact, and more so through their local networks, exist, it will help organizations have a critical, very credible way of addressing corporate sustainability. And I will be talking into some of our programs that we have ran over time. But I'm happy to be here, noting that KenGen and even the nation media are members of UN Global Compact, meaning that they are walking the talk. In your core of your business, that is where you want to create sustainability, and not just one-off and select items like CSR activities once in a year. It is at the core of your business. That is where sustainability is. And I believe with all these stakeholders seated here, taking their actions, ultimately results will show. And they will show when we are transforming the society and creating the future that we want.
So far, do you feel that there's actual action?
Yes, for sure. It might be that whenever one is making a positive, there is one who is also creating probably some negativity. But if all of us are no track of doing anything good, it is already projected that the warming that we have, and I know it was mentioned, Harry, that we are at best 2.1 degrees. But with the current status quo, with doing nothing, then we are projected to 2.7 degrees Celsius. And that's why all of us must take action. Otherwise, we will be able to shrink into more productive communities and even environment that we might be not enjoying in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Harun. I want to bring you back to the space, Dr. Macharia Irongo. And, we've established that, you're largely in the fossil space, but it is not all that you're doing. There's a lot that you're doing in regards to just being part of this agenda of going green. So maybe just let us know, what is Kenya Pipeline doing, to be part of this
And the majority of these tanks were not covered at the top. So what we're doing is covering all our tanks with dome roofs so that we minimize any evaporation into the environment unnecessarily. So we just allow you to drive your car and burn it, and that can be minimized. The second thing we've done, and I can challenge one of the guys who, General Kialangwa said they don't have trees. And between me and him, in whatever we were doing before, General Madede, we planted 30 million trees as a team. And we continue. The only challenge I used to challenge General Madede is, other than the Munazi trees, which we enjoy, how many trees does he plant on himself in every season? That's the only challenge we keep on doing. So what KPC is doing, planting more trees. Not only the trees you normally call, we are also in mangrove. Currently this year we've planted 110,000 mangroves, just to spare you for your prawns when you go to Mombasa, and lobsters. So we are doing much in terms of that front. I want to give you an example really on what trees can do. There is the biggest refinery in the world, sits in east of India. It's called Sika in Jamnagar city. That place was just as dry as any place you can call in North Kenya. What the Reliance Group did when they were building the refinery, they went planted 5 million trees of mangoes, 5 million trees of orange, 5 million trees of teak, etc. Today, Jamnagar, they grow rice because it rains every other minute. So the more we do plant trees, things will change. For example, people who have driven going to Mount Kenya, if you remember between Thika and the junction to Embu, there were no trees. Today, the place is populated and it's raining. We used to call it the Ukambani side because they never wanted to plant tree. But the problem about our trees is the animal. Because we don't do what you call feedlotting, we allow goats to go everywhere, sheep to go everywhere. They eat the trees you plant. Anyway, KPC is plugging on that. We are also currently implementing, from our head office standpoint, we will not be able to use the electricity from Kenya Power because we are putting our own through solar. So we're using every roof we have to do solar at our head office. And I have about 28 pumping stations, and all the pumping stations will be solarized because I have enough land. The problem with solar, as we even go green, and I know everybody's looking at solar, for you to produce enough, you have to have enough land. And I don't think Kenya will have enough land to just plug it, those good glasses to produce for us electricity. So there's so many things we're doing. We have what we call variable frequency drives, which we've implemented. So far, we are really saving about 845 million per year. We are contributing to the carbon print, about 53,000 kilo carbon equivalent. And we are able also to save from Kenya Power so that they can give you about 974 kilowatt per hour per year. So those are the small things we are doing over and above making sure you drive and you energize. And I know I also give Madam Rebecca here a lot of fuel oil and diesel for her to be able to supplement what she's doing with the green energy.
All right, thank you very much. And I want to now come back to Basigo, that is Moses. So when you bring in these electric buses, so that you can understand the value, aside from just, it's a different way of powering our vehicles, what is this that it's helping the environment? What is the benefit environmentally of having these electric buses and vehicles at large?
Okay, at this level, when there are very few, you may not see the big benefit. However, if I can just take you back to, I know COVID has been a time that has really hit us badly, and people don't like to remember the original lockdowns. But if you remember the original lockdown, when there was no public transport on the road, sitting from where I used to live in Athi River, I could see both Mount Kenya and I could see Mount Kilimanjaro from Athi River. Now, what was missing? It was emissions. So as we then electrify the public service sector, which carries 80% of all Kenyans, Yeah? Either you walk or you take a matatu. Very few people actually own cars. So as we electrify that, what we will notice is emissions will start coming down significantly. We will start seeing respiratory diseases reducing significantly. And then if from an economic point of view and from this summit, we will start uptaking this power that you're generating. So we keep being told that there's benefit, there is a social benefit, but even a noise pollution. Today, I think KCB were here. I don't know how they operate in their offices at Kencom with all those Isuzu trucks blowing smoke and revving all day. Then electric buses, there's no noise. And we have noticed that our passengers who are taking these buses are choosing that bus because it's quiet, and it's a much better feel in terms of, so it's not just the environment generally, but also on a personal level, your personal environment, and then, of course, economics. If you can make more money, Borough Chairman, you can actually drive all weekend on 100 shillings if you move to an electric vehicle.
Yes, but you do know, before he gets to do that 100 bob a whole day, he'll have to spend almost 3 times the amount to buy a car.
Well, that, and I'm glad we are sitting with the policymakers. That is actually part of the process we are going through. Yes, technology, and I think Madam CS said that we are innovating so fast. But I can assure you the government is now working on the EV policy. My good friend Francis there is decided BRT will be 100% electric. So because even government is taking a step forward, we do hope as an industry that an enabling environment will be created, and then we can actually start building these buses here. We as Basigo already committed that we'll start assembling the buses here together with one of the manufacturers who assembles in Kenya. So we'll start that by next year. But by just doing that, we'll actually be able to bring down the price by 40%. And as more OEMs come into that space, we'll see the prices coming down.
All right. And Mukiri, do you feel, and feel free to be honest, as much as the CS is here, do you feel, but as a person who's been in this space for a while, that there is sufficient policy and goodwill to actually make us achieve all the nice things that have been said from morning and will be said until tomorrow? Or do we feel there's a need for that to be a step up? It will be a good thing, even if it's no, the CS will take her notes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan, and putting me to the, the spot. Well, the point is to create that, critical mass influence. And as you are aware, probably to just ask, if all of us, you are told you have an opportunity to choose either to insure your car or drive nicely, all of us will choose, I'm a good driver, and I don't want to incur the cost of insuring my car. Just to say, sustainability currently is running on the goodwill of institutions that are taking actions by their own volition. But to put regulations and to allow most of us participate in our own small way, at least to create some basic minimum, and that can be able to allow most of the enterprises, companies, take action with some level of deliberate and intentionality in what they are doing. Because currently, even if I pick an issue just on a very superficial manner, I will still carry the day. Nobody will come to audit me or check how effective I am. But what we are asking, for example, those who are taking some action around climate action, you can only do that by subscribing through scientifically verifiable methods like signing up to the Science-Based Target Initiative. That way, you'll not just be doing basic minimum, but you'll be given a plan on how to achieve a net zero level. And that way, you'll be able to be more deliberate, intentional, put resources, and that way results will be realized. And this is for government to think about, because actually the message that the businesses are sending out here when they do good, everybody is encouraged. But if all of us were made to do good, then you can imagine the kind of results that you'll be able to register. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. And when we talk about results, I want to bring in Cyprian once again in terms of EPRA. When you think about our environment, some of the businesses in this sector have been growing, but it's at a risk to people. For instance, the fuel stations. And you find that the setup, sometimes we find some small fuel stations which are just next to, either small houses. They look like, it's just, the same setup that I would go and buy milk. It is just there. And there is a risk because they should not be within specific distances from residential areas, etc. But we still have that. Maybe you could expound on that situation and why it is that we're there and what needs to be done to, de-risk, so to speak.
Thank you, Dan. Maybe before I answer that one on petrol stations, I wanted to share some ideas on our main objective of safe, reliable, and sustainable power before I get it out of my mind. Because over the period, I've been involved in quite a number of modeling. And over the time, we've been made to believe that you can only model to increase prices, especially to cater for inflation, forex, issues like parameters like the country risk. And you can agree with me that some of the PPAs that the CS talked about already have some prices which have now significantly gone down worldwide. And part of the reason is because we didn't have that radical shift in thinking that this technology, together with the prices of equipment, will come down. And worldwide today, as we speak, a lot of this renewable energy, which we are meant to believe that is expensive, is actually much, much, much cheaper than fossil fuels. And now we are thinking seriously on how we are going to model going forward to also take care of reduction in the cost of equipment and also technology, because it's happening, it has happened, and we are seeing it coming down every day. If you go to some countries, you'll hear they're talking of solar selling at below 4 US cents. The models we have in our country range between 5 and 12. So this is one area that we are really looking at because it's part of the regulations that we are developing. We'll also be able to come up with models, templates that will guide our investors so that then we can also be able to distribute the risk and the burdens that consumers are carrying today. Now, coming to the issue of petroleum stations, yes, it's true. We do not have regulations that bar anyone from investing a station next to the other station. And I can attest to it that is a risk in waiting. But we've been proactive on that, and we have come up with regulations which are on draft form. Please, when we invite you for public participation, ensure that you attend, because we are going to come up with regulations that are far-reaching so that in the event one puts a petrol station in a particular area, then we have a distance that another person should put a petrol station. So for the time being, what we are doing audits across the country, and we are handling case by case because there are stations that really, when you look at them, even driving your car to that station is a problem. So we are handling those cases case by case. But once the audit is complete, which is in the final stages, we should be able to take action on those stations.
Sorry, so just before we go to the next point, so we are saying once this audit is done, it means we are likely to
I'm even thinking of doing it maximum 70-30, because some stations, when they hear it's a lady coming to do an inspection, even the owner of that station that day comes in, because they know they are thorough and they don't take shortcuts. So it's something I take from this forum, and I would want my colleagues also, the mayor colleagues, to learn from that, because if all of us behave that way, we'll have a better society for all of us. Thank you.
All right. Note taken as a man. Dr. Macharia, just staying on something almost related, and one of the things that has come up in the past is fuel leaks, oil leaks, which again have a significant negative impact on our environment. So the concern is what is being done to make sure that we mitigate or eliminate, hopefully, this occurrence, because it puts our environment at risk, and even human life.
I'll basically put 2 points across. One is KPC itself has developed very good chemicals which we use currently to mitigate areas where we have leakages. We have emerging things like fertilizer and peroxides do turn the hydrocarbons into organic substances. So that's one technology which KPC has done. And in areas where, like the last leak was in Kiboko, and we used those chemicals, and immediately we did that. We did not close the pits. We introduced fish, and the owner started fishing. That means that whatever we are doing, whatever technology we are developing, and we also picking technology from our citizens, whatever they develop. So that's how we are mitigating any leak or any sort of happening in environment through hydrocarbons. Secondly, we are now fast-tracking things to do with tree planting. So far, KPC is involved with Kenya Forestry through Rhino Charge. We've put already 40 million in terms of doing the abadeas. Now we are moving to Mount Kenya. So if we can cover those areas where people are not going to log, and plus animals which go feed in there, they're not going to feed on the small trees, then we'll be moving this story of tree cover more beyond the 12% we had in the morning. So there are so many things we are thinking about. Imagine also, because we bring vessels, that's why we are concentrating also in mangrove areas, because that will also help us in terms of mitigating loss of fish environment.
All right. And as we begin drawing to a close of this conversation, I want to ask Moses. You had partly alluded to it before, but I think it's good for us to just explicitly talk about it. As a business that is, pretty much fully in this new direction, what is the taxation and operating environment like? How encouraging and facilitative is it? And again, don't worry, the CS is here.
In fact, I'm glad that she is. I think for us in the e-mobility space, one of the biggest challenges that we're having is a bit of the disjointed lithium-ion batteries are looked at. So if I bring in lithium-ion batteries for solar, then I get duty remission. I'll bring them at zero duty, at zero VAT. But if I bring the same lithium-ion package, electric motorcycle, I then pay 25% duty. Now that already creates a very big disparity and a discouragement for people to move, especially in the lower market. If we can solve that one issue, I can tell you in the next 5 years, all borders will be electric. I can tell you that for a fact. Now, on the vehicles, yes, electric vehicles are expensive by nature currently because it's new technology. But like any new technology, the cost is coming down. In the last 10 years, electric vehicles have come down. Price Isuzu is selling a bus in Kenya. Add the duties
disposal of the lithium batteries, etc. Now, if that disposal is not done right, it again puts our environment at risk. So, is there any formal regulation or guideline in terms of this disposal? Because as we head into it, are we ready for the disposal side of it?
Thank you, Dan. I agree. Actually, as we embrace e-technology now, we are likely to have quite a number of batteries in the market. And the MCA Act provides for disposal of those batteries or any substance of that nature, but we don't have regulations under the energy sector on disposal of those batteries. And I think it's an area that we have taken note, and indeed we have to be proactive on that because if the motorbikes take effect as we are seeing them, then we are likely to have a lot of those batteries in the environment, and we need to have a safe way of disposing them.
All right, thank you very much.
I think if I just add, I think there's also an industry there that is budding on disposal. What is happening we're getting the second life batteries from vehicles and motorcycles, and that are actually being used for energy storage in either solar home systems or through inverters at home. So that's another industry that is actually going to come up by
a forum on the young SDG innovators for below 35 people who are employed in some companies. And we realized that the young people, they are already seeing that the impervious floor, concrete floors that are within our town is a serious mess. And they created a solution called Elastopave to say that, yes, this is a flowing solution, but still it has some, porous capabilities to ensure that we don't have some land flows. So it means these challenges are not there for long, so long we convene more often and we join platforms, bring some of the environmental challenges that we see or we perceive in our solution making.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Macharia, I'd invite you to just make a closing remark on this matter.
My closing remark maybe is a scare to each and every one of us. Currently, you saw in the media, US is starting to extract its fossils. Those are superpower. India also has the biggest reserve. They don't even extract. And that's money, isn't it? Why is it? These are technology-savvy people. fossils. Fossil is here to stay. And as I said, you can challenge me. And let's be authentic in our discussions. Not because you are competing, because I'm in green energy, I'm in fossil, you're competing. We must put our hands together, work this matter through. I'm part of government, but me being part of the government, I'm the problem. I just want to give you an example. I was a director in IPRA, and we approved a lot of solar projects. To date, they've not been licensed to go ahead. For example, Total in Meru, they were doing 50 megawatts. They are as a bought land, they've done everything. They are not getting the begin. These are the issues which kill these innovations of green energy. So we as a government, we must be brutal. We must be dictators to make sure that the green energy space is given time, it's listened to, and a lot of people should go around it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cyprian, you know there's something you may need to respond to there in regards to where are we with the licensing of some of these, like the solar investors.
Thank you, Dan. I'll do that together with my closing remarks. We license all projects that meet requirements. And as I started saying, we have quite a number of regulations. Actually, we have 33 regulations today which have been developed. Most of those regulations are existing. We are just reviewing them to align them to the Energy Act 2019 and the Petroleum Act 2019. So therefore, we are requesting all of you to ensure that you participate when we have stakeholder engagement on those regulations, because once they become law, then when you meet me out there, I'm a little bit different, because when we are enforcing those regulations, we ensure that compliance is complied to the letter. That said, before I address the question from Dr. Macharia, is that we have licensed quite a number of players, contractors, electricians in the energy space, and we are not seeing a majority of us utilizing them. We are actually taking shortcuts. For example, we license electricians who are meant to do wiring in our houses. I know majority of us are even having contractors who do not even have licenses. And I can tell you from statistics, almost 24% of the accidents and incidents we get on electrical are from unlicensed facilities or from and this is largely because we are not engaging licensed players. So my request and my message this evening is that please, you can spend an extra coin, but when you engage somebody who is licensed to install for you your solar PV, you'll be assured of that solar equipment lasting long, other than taking a shortcut and after a year or two you're in my office with a complaint. So let's all of us pass that message to our brothers and sisters, because that's the only way we can then have a safe society. Dr. Macharia, I can assure you that your issue, I think it's only one license, will be addressed maybe out of this forum. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bwana Mukiri, maybe your closing comment?
Yeah, so my call to action will be, we know where we want to go, and the how probably to do it is known as well. So what we need to do is to take action. Even if it is baby steps, you take action. And one of the key issues, as you say, when you look at even the national reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals, the companies that are operating in this country that are part of sustainability initiative, like the United Nations Global Compact, you see their names popping there and with the data. And that is what I will ask organizations to join initiative like this, so that you can create the momentum to take action on sustainability, and cumulatively will create the positive results around our preservation of our planet and even societal investment that we want to push forward. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least,
we are at the cusp of a new industry. I think for 25 years ago, when Safaricom was starting, a cell phone was unaffordable. Today, it's in the hands of everybody. So we are at the same point with electric mobility. Right now, maybe the entry point seems a bit unaffordable, but I can assure you technology is moving at the rate there's interest in bringing those EVs here and building them here in Kenya. Is moving. They will be affordable within the next 2 to 3 years. So it's a good time to be in that industry. We need to start preparing for the future energies of when we get to, even if it's 10% of, for us, at 10% of all matatus in Nairobi, just Nairobi, 15,000 matatus, you'll need 50 megawatts just to run those 10% of the matatu. So if you do the entire, you're talking about 500 megawatts. So it's quite a big industry, and it's just beginning. And so let's prepare for it. And we are going to continue being at the forefront of it and pushing it forward. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, just before I let you go, Daktari had initially, when he was saying that, we'll still be flying our children and etc. Yes. Is there an option? Are we foreseeing electric planes?
There's actually quite a lot of work being done. I don't have it on the top of my mind, but I will send it to him of somebody who's actually prototyped an electric plane and has actually flown across the US. So it's happening. So technology is moving very fast because it's not just electric. It could be a combination of electric, hydrogen. We're actually seeing it happen. Trains are already electric. There are people who are now doing electric boats, so they're taking for fishing. It's already happening here in Kenya, where there's a company actually doing electric boats, so that way they say it doesn't disturb the fish as they're fishing at night. So it's actually much more quieter. So the propeller is much more quieter. I will also tell you that solar you're generating, please bring it and give it to the boda guys out there, because they will soon have electric motorcycles, and that's going to happen, I can tell you, within the next watch this space within the next 12 months. Thank you.
All right, Dr. you need to respond as we close.
Yes, I think it's important to respond, because what the biggest nuclear to do power, it's more dangerous. Today, as I sit here, US is building a new coal plant as much as they tell us not to do. Is it dangerous? So we can discuss even this protocol, plane you're talking about, how much cargo can it carry? Are we together? So as I said, we need to be authentic so that as we develop, we are developing with real baby steps, as I said, so that we know where we are going instead of competing on ideas. What is it possible for us to do? Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much. First, the PS who did the scene setting for this panel discussion, and Dr. Macharia Irungu, the MD and CEO of Kenya Pipeline Company, who says we may be going green, but he's not going anywhere. Not in this generation or our children's. There's quite a number of generations that is going to be surviving. Thank you as well, Harun Mukiri, who's a Participant Engagement Manager of Global Compact Network Kenya. We have Moses Nderitu, the Chief Revenue Officer at Basigo. And we have Cyprian Nyakundi, who's the Director of Enforcement and Consumer Protection at the Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you all for being an electrified audience as much as you could. And I'd now like to invite my colleague, Julian Samboko, to give us a closing round. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's appreciate them with a hand clap. Yes, and a lot of notes for the CSN for all the players. I'd first like the comment to be made. Let me just bring the microphone to you. This is good feedback. It may be a commitment. We like commitments live on air.
Thank you very, very much. And I want to thank that panel, because it has been a very, as you said, electrifying panel. But I think it is important to appreciate that we are at inflection point. It is a historic inflection point. And as I said in the morning, this is a journey. It's not a flip over. It's not a flip over. It is a journey. We are going to have to usher in as we usher out. And the question, and that's why this meeting is very, very important, just to hear the different perspectives and commitment and, energy and so forth. So the value of this conference is to cohere, to first of all listen at the different perspectives, but also to cohere a common position that as we map the way forward, first for our country, it is not counties, it is people. How do we enable people to have meaningful production? Innovation that is relevant to our circumstances and that is relevant to our needs. So, because when you hear all sorts of things and investments, the government should give us incentives. Incentives means they don't want to pay taxes. Guess what? The same people then say the government is not providing services. Well, the government needs taxes to provide services. So it is the balance of this. And this is what IPRA, KRA, Treasury are being paid to do every day. So it is not either or, some good people, some good actors against some mean government that does not understand, that they can spur development by incentivizing, which means not having people pay taxes. By the way, there are many times when people are given tax breaks and they declare bankruptcy on the penultimate year, so that they don't pay taxes. So all these games, are all there, and it is what we must look out for, so we do not because it's a mandate issue to support renewable energy for sustainable development. So I thought I'll just say this so that we keep on the track of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam CS, for that good insight. And now, hand it back to Julians to bring this to a close. Thank you, Julians.
Thank you so much, Madam CS, for your intervention. And I should say, I think you have actually done the day's summary, which is actually what I'm supposed to be doing here. But let me just give you some flavor on the takeaway points following the deliberations we've had across the session starting morning. And I'll put them in about 10 or so points very briefly. The first is that we have a $28 billion annually funding gap for us to make this transition into renewable energy. And that's a huge, colossal amount of money. So what does this mean? We need to think about financing solutions and to be innovative around them. Blended finance, co-financing, etc. They've all been tabled here. It's now for us to see how to work around this. The second thing which the CS has very ably brought up is that we need collaboration and partnerships, public and private sector, to address this, and of importance, if I could just reiterate what she said when she was making her submission, is that this is a risk-return trade-off. And we all need to think about it critically so that we don't have the favor being skewed unfavorably to one side. Another takeaway point from these discussions is that inclusivity, particularly in the energy sector, doesn't just mean ensuring women and minorities are included. More importantly, it means we have people across various categories being equipped with the requisite skills to further the success of the energy industry and the economy at large. Another take-home point is that we need not just affordable solutions for renewable energy, we need. So it might be affordable, but scalability is where the question comes in, and that is where the partnerships, just circling back to the top, come in. Another point taking away from this is that engineering and renewable energy is an experience-laden profession, and therefore, whereas we clamor for inclusivity, we need to ensure that we have human capital being built across the various generations. Something else is that we are making strides as far as reforestation is concerned, but the cost of clean energy solutions is reversing the gains. And now this brings up the conversation around policies. It has been pointed out that carbon financing offers significant virgin territory as far as addressing these renewable energy challenges are concerned, but Africa needs to model a structure which is to its favor. You'll remember the mention that we came out of COP26 with a raw deal, one panelist said. As I wrap this up, the energy transition and climate risk mitigation needs a favorable policy environment. And this needs both government and the private sector to sit together and see exactly what defines a favorable policy environment. As the CS has said, incentives and tax breaks in an environment such as the one we are in with fiscal constraints might be desirable. The feasibility is the question. So that is what I have just summarized here with the assistance of my colleague, and we shall continue to put this together and have a compact position as far as today's deliberations are concerned. It's now my distinct honor to invite Frank to wrap this up for us and give us the way forward for the evening. Thank you. Oh,
thank you very much.
Sorry, before Frank steps here, let me just remind us of, could we please have the QR code from the NMG? So, exciting news for NMG. We are delighted to inform you that we have upgraded a new and more features. The platform seeks to deliver to our subscribers a superior user experience, including improved layouts to allow visibility of all the products, access to past editions. It is easier to navigate, and absolutely premium reading experience with interactive pages. We would also like you to interact with the new platform and enjoy your reading experience. Join us as we empower you through informed, unbiased, and comprehensive journalism. Your trust and support will help us accomplish the mission to empower Africa. And this, remember, you're given a month free access for attending the Sustainable Energy Summit. So please just scan on the QR code and see what options are availing themselves. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Julians. I actually just signed up on this. It's as simple as clicking your camera on that QR code, and our web page comes on, and you're able to download the whole paper. My favorite is Taifa Leo. I always call it the boldest in the whole of East Africa. Read it sometime, you'll see that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just done the first half of our conference. For those who are following, we had 4 key thematic areas. Number 1 was issues affecting Africa's clean energy deployment, where we had that panel that Julius has just gone through. And then the second was financing for sustainable energy, which covered financing, diversity, and environmental sustainability. That brought us to the end of day 1. People to register so that you can be able to see how geothermal process works. And then we have the other option of being able to swim right over here. And those who want to do it this evening, I think we have some time between now and 7 o'clock. And all those who need to give permission to extend that time are in this room. So if you feel you want to sample the spa, please feel free to do it this evening, but also tomorrow and Saturday as well. We also have the option of going to golf on Saturday to Nakuru County Club. I think as at Kiboro, when he was making his speech, he really articulated that. So please sign up for that and let's go and tee off. And finally, we'll be having a small CSR activity at one of our schools around here called Olkaria Primary School. So again, those who want to sign up for that CSR activity, this is your chance to please sign up at the registration desk. Ladies and gentlemen, this now brings us to a close for the first day of the first ever Sustainable Energy Conference. It is the beginning of a long discussion. Thank you very much and do have a nice evening. Clap for yourself, please. All right. Julian is reminding me that all the speakers who are here today and all the speakers for tomorrow have just earned a ticket to go and have dinner this evening. We would want you to come African dressed. All the speakers for today and for tomorrow are going to join the CS alongside with all the VVIPs that we had here today. It's going to be at the Lake Naivasha Resort. So please, you can relax between now and 7 o'clock. Then you can join us there at Lake Naivasha Resort. Asanteni sana and do have a nice evening.
what you gonna give to me today, 'cause you had a bad day. Well, so did I. So did I, baby. Well, so did I. So did I, baby. Tonight, we're gonna talk about feelings. Tonight, we're gonna talk about all the things that I've always wanted tonight. You're gonna be making up for all the times when I needed you and you were not there. You were not there, yeah. Oh.
In Kenya, especially in cities like Kisumu, like Nairobi, Eldoret, Nakuru, and Mombasa. We engage them in activities that where they take leadership in their settlements. For example, if you come from Manyata here, we give you the skills which you can go now and talk door to door, telling people to embrace dialogue and